evening, everyone, and welcome to SocialFlight Live. No, I am not Jeff Simon. He's younger, he's good looking, he's got hair. Me, I'm Barry Schiff, and we have a truly amazing show for you this evening. Or as Jeff would say, amazing show. Jeff is here, and we're going to hear the backstory of Jeff, how he got involved in this journey of his, how he got involved with SocialFlight and set it up. We're going to see behind the scenes story of SocialFlight Live. So here he is, the man himself, Jeff Simon.
Hi, Barry. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here. And I have to say, I am nervous in the other seat.
You're nervous? You mean because we're going to be asking you questions?
Exactly. I've never had the tables turned like this.
Well, that's interesting. I wanted to congratulate you, first of all, on your 100th show. You haven't had 100 guests, but close to it. Some remarkable people. I mean, like a who's who aviation. I don't know how you're going to repeat it for the second 100. You're going to be challenged, but you've had some incredible shows. I'm just wondering, have you ever been surprised by any of your guests?
Oh, there have been an awful lot of surprises, but I have a feeling you might have something that you're thinking of in particular.
No, not me. I'm playing it straight tonight.
Yeah, there's you first of all, you never play it straight. I think anyone that knows you knows that that is the case, but I want to thank you, of course, for doing this and for hosting. And yes, we have some other people that are coming on, and it's going to be a really fun night.
I hope so. I imagine it will be. Who do you have coming on, Jeff?
Well, let's see here. The first person I have, one of my favorites, near and dear to my heart, is Rod Machado. Let's see if
Rod who? Rod who?
Rod
Hey,
Machado.
Jeff.
Rod, how are you? Thank you so much. You have been on this show. You are one of my stars, and I am in awe of and so grateful that you've been on the show.
You are so kind. That's very kind of you to say. I got to tell you, I've always enjoyed your show. You are probably and I say this quite sincerely, the easiest person I've ever been interviewed by. You are lively, you are gregarious, and I think if we could just hook wires to you, we could power half of Boston. I believe Boston, Massachusetts. You are just so full of energy, and you bring a great deal to General Aviation with your with the SocialFlight and with the wonderful guests that you've had on. And I got to tell you, during the COVID zombie apocalypse, it was a real breath of fresh air for people to remain in contact with you and the General Aviation folks, and it was a good thing. And I know I sure enjoyed it. It was just wonderful.
Well, thank you so much. It means so much coming from you. You are one of my heroes, and people continue to write to this day about the times that you have come on the show, and I hope we'll be able to have you again soon.
Well, you're very kind. And by the way, you folks mentioned a lot of the crew mentioned they're going to Oshkosh. I have a Cessna 150, and Diane and I are going to Oshkosh. We live in California, and we're leaving tomorrow to be able to make it on time. So I'm looking forward to it. So we'll see you there. But thanks so much, Jeff and Barry. You're just wonderful to be on with you folks, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the show.
Can I join you in that Cessna 150?
Yeah, I'll have to make some baggage modifications and get a special waiver, and then not go. So, besides, I'd be too nervous to have you watch me fly. Actually, the only approach I'd feel comfortable having you watch me fly would be the VOT approach. That's my favorite approach, by the way. The VOT approach. Oh,
right. Which
I can keep the needle perfectly. What you set the VOT frequency in, set 180 on the OBS, and just fly. That's the only needle I can keep centered. Actually, that's not true. The other needle I can keep centered is the amp meter needle. Boy, I can keep that perfectly centered in the gauge, as long as the strobes aren't on. So there.
Awesome.
You can go if you want.
Is your great fear still a runaway Hobbs meter?
Oh, of course. What else would it be?
I'll never forget when I
thank you
heard you
again.
say that. Cracked up an audience. You had everybody going. Of course, when you have an audience in front of you, everybody laughs. You're hilarious. Are you doing any speaking engagements of late?
No, Barry, I've been so busy working in the business. I've not done a lot of speaking. So, up with Jeff when he's trying to let me on that, I have to go on.
Well, you do good work, Rod.
Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Rod.
folks.
Appreciate it. We have our next guest. Wow, this is just keeps coming. You know, he threw me. He dialed in as Mike, but it is Mark Patey. The Patey brothers have come in. I think you were just trying to mess with me, Mark. I think that's what's going on here.
Name right. You know, your show's always so on. We got to get one thing. We got to mess with you a little bit. But thanks for having me. And yeah, this is Mark Patey, despite what it says at the bottom of the screen there. Mike may step in here in a minute. He's actually on the highway rolling this way. He didn't think he could make it, but if he does, he'll be up here.
No worries. It was wonderful seeing you down at Sun and Fun. Obviously, I'm a huge fan. We spent some time at the Wheelan party as well, and listening, just my head explodes talking to you. Every time that you tell me about the different things that you've created and invented for the world, it's not just like tugs. Like, you just keep coming out with stuff. We have to like organize and put the world's problems together and just assign them to you and Mike, and all of a sudden everything will be better.
Well, we do like to build stuff, and we never found a problem that didn't entertain our minds for at least a little while. So I appreciate you saying that. We certainly like fixing and building.
Well, thank you for coming on the show and being a guest of ours. It really has made SocialFlight Live very, very special.
Well, I got to thank you for having your show. I mean, 100 episodes. Congratulations. That is a big deal. I mean, that's really amazing. And I know how much work goes into putting together something that's not live, and to try to rally people, busy people, and the kind of guests you've had on your show are not easy people to just get on the phone, let alone to sit down at a computer and do a live event with you. And you've done a fantastic job, and I think everybody in aviation has benefited from it. So I know I can speak for myself and Mike as well. We love your show, and we love what you've done. We really appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mike. And you have a good evening, Mark.
You too. Take care.
You be good.
And next, someone actually local to me, another person I have spent time out with Wheelan, and I can always get the mic right this time. Mike Goolian. How are you doing, Mike?
No, it's Mark Goulian. I'm sorry, Jeff, you got it wrong. That's just my screen name there. No, I'm doing great. And, you know, it was great to see all of you guys at the Wheelan party. And I think the only reason they invite me back to Sun and Fun in Oshkosh now is because they know I'm going to throw that fancy Wednesday night party. And it seems like it's become a thing bigger than what we had ever imagined. But it's sort of our little place in the world of Sun and Fun in Oshkosh, that it's our little social gathering, and it's really fun to see you and everybody that comes to that party.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for coming on the show and helping to make it so special. Obviously, you came on with Rob Holland. It was early on when things were very challenging, and there was so many things that were unknown with the pandemic at that time, and it really was a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, it was really fun that the three of us and up there in New England freezing to death during the pandemic. And you know, it's amazing. I get your emails every week, and I click on the next guest and I say, how does he get all of these amazing people? And just look at the people that have been on here so far, and then you've got a circus air show performer. So I feel like I'm lucky that I was a very small part of the beginning of the show. So thank you, and just a huge congratulations. The effort that you've put into this is obvious. The friends that you've made, and you know, that's what aviation is all about, right? We all love to fly. We all have a passion for flying. And when you put us all together and we share that passion with everybody, it's just infectious. And I think that's how we grow aviation, and you're doing it in such an exemplary way. And thank you so much for what you're doing to help all of us increase aviation and really make it more fun and bring it to more people. So congratulations.
You're very, very kind. I cannot wait to see you again soon and see you out at Oshkosh.
You got it, for another party.
Yes, exactly. Thanks, Mike.
Take care, Mark.
You know, very, very early on in the pandemic, someone who's near and dear to my heart, very, very special, came on, Jolie Lucas. Jolie, thank you. You spend so much time counseling so many people and really attending to the hearts and minds of all of us in general aviation. And I cannot think of an episode of our show that was more emotionally important than the one that you came on early on and helped everybody else out with.
Thank you so much for that, Jeff. I think that at the beginning, you know, we're used to being a gather community, and we quickly went to a scatter community. And so psychologically, that's really very tough for folks. And so I was so happy, you know, I've been on SocialFlight Live twice. May 5th, Cinco de Mayo of last year is when it was all girls, and with Martha King and Pia and me and Julie Clark. But I think that this is such a wonderful platform. And I know I look every week and see who's on and come and enjoy. So you deserve the moon for doing this. You really do, because we were suffering, and it gave us a way, if we weren't able to fly, it gave us a way to still be connected to our aviation family. And Rod Machado said it best a few years ago, where he said, airplane people are good people. And so I just want to thank you so much. And it was a great opportunity, and I'm looking forward to seeing people at Oshkosh and maybe hitting you up to go to the Wheeling party, because I didn't go last year. But just for us, again, once again, to go from scatter to gather, so that we know that we have far more together than we ever would have separately. And it's so great to see Barry, and one of my mentors. So thank you again. I'll stop blabbing because I've been talking all day.
Well, thank you so much. I cannot wait to see you again, and we need to have you back on the show to talk about the things that are going on with you.
I would love to talk about the psychology of developing your personal flight minimums, which is what I've been presenting at, I'll be presenting again at Oshkosh. So that would be a great topic.
Oh, we are going to book that.
Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jolie.
Bye. Take care.
Let's see who we have. We are just one more person that is also such a kind friend and someone I am such an admirer of. Adrian Eichhorn, Earth Rounder, North Pole transit person. I don't know what else to call you other than you are like one of the greatest adventurers of our time, Adrian.
Well, thank you, Jeff. First of all, I want to just start off by saying congratulations. I mean, to come up with an idea, to see it through, to now have 100 episodes recorded and out there to share safety, to promote camaraderie in the Fellowship Airmen. My hat's off to you, buddy. You've done a remarkable job. And when people ask me, what do you think of Jeff Simon? It's pretty simple. I say, well, he's terminally happy. Have you ever seen him not smiling? And I'm sure there are those moments, but we share such a great thing called aviation, and it's pretty tough not to have a good time. And I'm just honored to be part of the show, because there's some people like Barry and like Rod and everybody else just with remarkable backgrounds, remarkable accomplishments and stories to share. And, you know, getting this out, it just helps promote what we're all about. So I'm honored, buddy, to be on the show. Thank you.
Hey, Adrian.
Yes, sir.
rumor has it that the North Pole was not enough for you, and you will be flying your Bonanza over the South Pole. Is that correct?
Well, Barry, I can't commit completely to that, but I am planning it. I don't know if I have a false sense of accomplishment, and it was a year ago tomorrow that I departed on the North Pole trip, and the trip from Iceland up the coast of Greenland, over the pole down to Fairbanks, everything went so perfectly. The plane's ready, I'm ready. Just got to figure out getting all the permits and to see whether or not it's really smart, because there's a lot of risk associated with it. And, balancing the risk and rewards. The North Pole was, I won't say a walk in the park, but compared to the South Pole, it's quite a bit more difficult to do that because of the distances and the weather in the Southern Ocean. But I am planning it and moving forward for probably the middle of January. It's the best weather down there.
If anybody can do it, Adrian, I'm convinced you will.
Well, thank you, Barry. I'm pretty lucky, and it's just I'm fortunate to have friends like you guys. It's pretty.
No, you make your luck, fella. You know that.
Yeah, thanks, Barry. Jeff, keep smiling and keep charging forward, buddy. I'm proud of you.
Oh, thank you so much, Adrian. Thanks for coming on tonight and for everything.
You bet.
Take care.
You bet. We'll see you.
All right, I am going to hand this show back to you, Barry.
Well, I have a question about some of your guests. Have you ever had or interviewed on your program a father-son team? Have you ever done that?
Let me think. Has that ever happened on one of my shows?
Yeah, has that ever happened? Who's that guy? Who's that other guy?
I go by Barry. It says Brian, but I go by Barry.
And
Or Mark.
People ask me now, are you related to Brian Schiff? I love it.
That's funny because people are still asking me or calling me Barry when they call me. Hey, Barry, Brian. Hey, Jeff, congratulations. I mean, 100 shows, that is so awesome. And thank you so much for having the faith in Dad and me to have us on your show to contribute to that. I mean, I think your show has been so awesome, especially in a time of turmoil, like everybody has already said. Aviation, it transcends the differences between us, and we all love to get together and gather. And I think the name of your show says it all, social, because we love being social. And that's why we all go to Oshkosh. And that's why we love sharing what we have in common. And that's why people love your show. So congratulations. I think what you've done is awesome. And I look forward to the next 100 shows you have. By the way, if you had a mile for every one show you've had, you'd be 1/2500th the way to the moon.
He's really good at math. Did you teach him that, Barry?
I'm probably wrong. I just did that, back in the envelope.
Oh, God. Jeff, why don't you tell us a little bit? Let's get into some of the background here. First of all, what got you involved in aviation? How did you get interested in flying?
It's interesting in that I didn't have any aviation background. And I think that might be one of the things that drives me so much. When I grew up, no one that my family knew was a pilot. And so I think I did the things that everybody does with model airplanes and dreaming about doing something like that. But I'd never even been to a General Aviation airport.
Same with me.
What's that?
I had the same story. Didn't know anybody in aviation.
Oh, God.
Hey, I just showed up because I thought there's going to be prizes tonight.
There
Is that true?
are. Let me actually say that, and let me interrupt my own little story here, because we have a bunch of prizes. This is to everybody in the audience. We have a bunch of prizes. Barry, you said you have something. Is that true?
Yes, I'm going to give away 4 personalized autographed books of my books to whomever you designate are the winners of those books. So there should be 4 people, and I'll sign them to that person, mail them off, and they'll have them.
And I'm sending a copy of my book to everybody who attends tonight.
So here's what we're going to do. We have other prizes also. We have swag from SocialFlight. We have We have all sorts of stuff. And so we're going to make this easy on us as hosts. All I'm going to do is every once in a while throughout the show, I'm going to read off a name of someone who is logged in. You as an attendee have to simply send an email to info at socialflight.com. Send an email with your name and your address, your mailing address. That's all you have to do, and we'll randomly assign you one of those prizes and get it out in the mail to you. So you have to pay attention, hear your name, send an email to info at socialflight.com because we called your name out. Oh, look at that. That's amazing.
It's
I didn't
technology.
realize that you're really good with like the AV and being able to like put up text and manage things.
Well,
Our first person is Tamara Willits. Tamara Willits. And if I am not pronouncing your name correctly, Tamara, I apologize. But Tamara Willits, info at socialflight.com, and you'll get one of the prizes. So,
wait a minute. How do Brian and I get prizes?
you know, honestly, your gift is what General Aviation gives to you every time we all see you, right? Did that work? Was that too cheesy?
No.
I don't think you guys can go anywhere without someone buying you like lunch or drinks or a beer or anything.
We get a
based on
membership
simply who
to
you are.
the Jelly of the Month Club.
Well,
Barry,
come on
you were
now,
asking
Jeff.
about the story, and I'll just wrap that up by saying I didn't have an experience in it, and it wasn't until after college that I met someone who was a pilot, was a general aviation pilot when I was at work, you know, sitting in a cubicle kind of thing. And as we all are general aviation pilots, we want to expose other people to it. And so we start talking about it everywhere we go. And this gentleman was wonderful and introduced me to it, took me flying, and it just blew my mind. And at that point, I was just, boom, full speed ahead. I need to do this.
And what did you learn then?
I learned about
Where?
mentoring.
Huh?
I learned about mentoring.
Well, how did you learn about flying? In what kind of an airplane?
He took me flying. And so that gave me the key. And then I immediately was like, okay, how does this work? I found an instructor at an airport that was nearby, and I made it. I was flying 3, 4, 5 times a week, whatever I could, and just quickly, you know, got through it because I was just so in love with it. And then quickly really moved into the aircraft part because that's what was driving me as a nuts and bolts guy and someone who loves tools. I was thinking, ooh, like how do you own a plane?
And
How long did it take you from that first ride to your first lesson?
Probably a week or two.
Nice.
well, where did you learn to fly and what kind of an airplane?
So I learned to fly in Beverly, Massachusetts, and it was wonderful, especially because I learned from a solo instructor. It wasn't with a flight school. This wonderful gentleman who was he was a state trooper, a Massachusetts state trooper, who on the side also was a flight instructor. And I learned in a Cessna 152, like most people, 172. And then I kind of fell in love with the low wing and Cherokee and moved that way to get my license.
Do you prefer the low wing?
I do. I am kind of a low wing bias guy. As you know, because of the engineering aspect also of it, I very quickly started like networking of what are cool planes. I had no idea if I could ever afford one, but I was looking at different ones, and I fell in love with the Grummans and that whole group that was, you know, owners group. I learned about owners groups when all same deal. You find one thing and all you have to whisper to someone is, this is a really cool plane. Like, I'm kind of like to learn more. And poof, on the internet, all of a sudden everybody's like, want to ride?
Well, Brian told me that you're too cheap to buy an airplane, so that you're building your own. And there's obviously something going on behind you. Is that your house? Is that a hangar? Is that where are you anyway that you have an airplane sitting behind you?
I'm in my living room This is like
You're
a
obviously not married, are you?
living room, dining room, and I
You're
put it-
obviously not married, right?
we won't be answering that.
So what
So
do you
how
build?
you build that airplane in your house, you have thought about trying to get it out, right? When it's all done?
It's the mystery of it. We want to, some of it is doing things and some of it is creating problems to solve later.
Why don't you tell everybody what you're building?
I am building a Titan T51D Mustang, which is a 2-seat, 3/4 scale Mustang replica. And it is what is behind me here. And yeah, we're actually not that far from moving this part out. So I'm getting pretty excited about that.
When do you think you'll be done completely?
Perpetually 2 years from today. That
Good
is the
luck.
rule. That is what we tell everybody. And if we come in under budget, under time frame and early, that's just a win.
So if I ask you at Oshkosh, when is your airplane going to be done? You're going to say 2 years from today.
I'm always going to say that until
2 years.
it's there. It's kind of, yes, exactly. It's kind of, you know what? My fiance Heidi likes to say that the same kind of thing. Now you never can like look at like a woman and say something about whether or not she's pregnant until you see the baby. Like we're not going to do that with this airplane, okay?
Understand.
Oh boy.
When I
I look
show
forward
up
to
with the
going-
airplane, when I show up with the airplane, I'll let you know. That'll be the first time I don't say it's 2 years from today.
Got it. I look forward to going up for a ride in that thing.
Yeah. Jeff,
Yes.
tell us how SocialFlight got started. What was the impetus? What was the thought behind it?
So thank you for asking that.
You told me to.
That's not true. Your son did. So if I mentioned when I first got into like owning an airplane, every time that someone would show me something, I wanted to pass that along. I felt like I came from not knowing anything about aviation, having all these people introduce it to me. And every time that happened and made this like aha moment, I felt energized, like how do I tell everybody else about this? And way back, oh my God, at this point, what, 10 years ago or more, there was so much talk about what we could do to turn around general aviation. Pilot populations getting smaller and smaller, and what can we do? And there's been these great efforts of Young Eagles and things like that. But I was just thinking to myself, there's got to be something that motivates people to be more engaged. And the first thing I thought of was, oh my God, the things that were so much fun were whenever I I just stumbled on an event, not just Oshkosh, but that an airport would have a fly-in day or a display day for biplanes or something. And I thought about that and I said, someone must be putting this information together. And so I started looking around and no one was. And so I just decided, that's going to be my mission. That's how I am going to help turn things around and support general aviation. I had this idea in my head that if pilots knew what was happening in their own backyard or within a short flight, then they're going to fly more, period. And if they fly more, they're going to find more pilots. They're going to talk to people. We're going to create more pilots. We have to get the word out about all these things. And so I decided to create SocialFlight, and I created SocialFlight.com and the SocialFlight mobile apps. And we just started gathering all this data, all these events in one place, and then putting them into a personalized email to everyone that says like, hey, wake up. Like, I know you're at work, but did you know that on Saturday there's going to be a Stearman fly-in and it's 50 miles from you? Like, you should go to this. And at first I thought there may not be a lot of events. And I started searching and searching and searching and putting it all together. And it turned out the first time that I even released anything, it was like 5,000 events in one place. And it just boomed from there.
Wow. Wow. It's time for a prize, you know.
Ah, you're right. Okay. The next prize is going to Stephen Trull, Trull. Stephen Trull. Send an email to info@socialflight.com.
Continue.
Continue.
So you have the app that it shows you where all these things are that are going on. And I love that because lo and behold, there are airports I didn't even know about. There are restaurants at airports I didn't even know about. And there are pilots I didn't even know about. So I've made friends. I've gone to many events I didn't even know existed. And I also noticed that you have those sponsors behind you, and there's a way to win prizes just by going to these places, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? Let me show this to everyone because we don't talk a lot about, SocialFlight on the air other than just an intro. And so I just want to show people really quickly what this is. This is a map. Every gold circle you see on this, that's an aviation event. Every single one of them. And you just go to socialflight.com, you can see all of these things happening. It is amazing how much is really out there. And you just click on something that's on the map and it's going to go and pop up, what it is and show you what's happening around there. And it's, to me, it's remarkable how much is happening at any given time. We're actually right now, of course, we're doing everything all at once, so things are really slow. But all of these things are things that you can go to, that you can see what's happening. You can even see it as a list. And then, as you mentioned, we have this thing called the Fly to Win Challenge. And let's see if it'll update that. It's not going to update right now because we're online. So I will try that a different time. But there are so many things happening. It's really, really fascinating. And as you mentioned, you can win prizes. We can actually, all you have to do is get the SocialFlight mobile app because that knows where you are. And if you go and fly, meaning when you turn it on, we don't watch where you are when you don't have the app open, but you open it, you can check in at airports. And anytime you go and check in somewhere, you're entered into that prize period. And our partners, these wonderful sponsors behind you that make all of this free and all of this available, donate prizes. And to give you an idea of how awesome this is, a perfect example is we're currently giving away an Aspen E5 EFD electronic flight unit. I mean, a flight display, a whole flight display we're giving away on July 1st. And everything's free. You just have to go and fly.
Do what you're already doing and just check in on SocialFlight, and you're entered in the contest, right?
Yes, that's
but
exactly right.
I have to say how honorable I think it is of you, because we all see these programs online where you're getting a pitch of some kind, buy this, or here's a little bit of information about my product, but yeah, it's just enough to tease you into, now you can, if you want to buy my DVDs or CDs or whatever, or join my club, or you haven't done that. You've done 100 episodes of SocialFlight Live, and you haven't made one pitch. And I just think that's honorable. I appreciate that. It just shows the integrity of what you've been doing with your show is not for self-benefit. It's just truly social and truly to help other people. And I don't think there's ever been a phone call that you and I have had where I didn't learn something new about maintaining my airplane.
Well, I really appreciate that. I mean, SocialFlight's free. So we try to get the word out in that way. We try to pitch it at the beginning, but I really hear from people that it changes the trajectory of their flying. And I think one of the most wonderful things I ever heard from someone is I actually got a letter. This was a bunch of years ago, and it was actually a written letter. It wasn't even an email, from a gentleman in Washington State who wrote me and said that he was thinking of selling his plane. He was getting ready to sell his plane, and a friend of his turned him on to SocialFlight, and he started flying more again, going to all these different things, and poof, all of a sudden he changed his mind. He's not selling his plane. And
cool.
So
I have to tell you that one of the best things about the events are the pancakes. Unfortunately, I've been getting too many of those pancakes. But if you ever get hungry on a Sunday morning, go to your website and find out where the nearest pancake event is. Wow, it won't take long.
Yes, yes, and now, of course, as a side note to anyone who's checking in right now, it looks like something ended up happening that I'll have to do as soon as we get off the air. But because a couple of people said they went and they couldn't get in, so I'll fix that as soon as we get off. But must be demand.
Time for another prize.
Oh, okay. Let us choose someone else for another prize, and that is going to be Donald Siegel. Donald Siegel, if you could do that. And I should say we can only mail to people in the continental United States. I will just say that. We don't have the funds to mail overseas if we do call off someone's name for that.
Is he related to Jonathan Livingston Siegel?
I'm going to leave that one up to you. We'll let him tell us in the email.
I get that a lot. Are you related to, and I start nodding my head because I think they're going to say Barry Schiff, and then now sometimes another Schiff comes out. The world is full of Schiff, and I have to be careful and not answer that question until I hear which Schiff they're asking if I'm related to.
Yeah, I like hearing his name on a PA system. No, they used to call us, he has a son, Brett Schiff. And so I was BS1, Brian was BS2, and Brett was BS3. And there's just a lot of BS in this family.
It is really something, no question. It's been a fun ride. You know, the other thing that happened along the way is I got really motivated by, again, I want to show people you can own a plane. You can do pretty much anything you want to do. There's ways of doing it, and there's people to help you. And a lot of people, when I first got the opportunity to own an airplane, I was really scraping every last dime and just trying to make this work. And I had people teach me how to work on it myself, what I could legally do, and things like that. And so I then created a video series called the Educated Owner Video Series, and just passed along literally everything everybody taught me. And from that point, became really, really passionate about learning how to work on planes, and then spending enough time doing it to get my A&P just by working on planes part-time. It was never a full-time job. And then the same thing, I went to writing for the magazines to say, hey, you can get your A&P. Hey, you can do things yourself on the airplane. And that is also a big passion of mine.
How did you decide to start the webinars?
That's an excellent question. And, you know, it came from a challenging time, of course. What happened was, as soon as the pandemic really went into full swing, which was the beginning of March 2020, that time, that map that I showed earlier with all those gold circles everywhere of where you can fly and go to an aviation event disappeared. And that was a very scary thing for aviation, for everything else happening, and even for myself, because the roof over my head is created by keeping SocialFlight going. So that was really concerning. So two things occurred to me at that time. One was, we need, instead of in-person events, to gather together all of the things that are happening online. All these different groups are starting to have Zoom meetings, and there's webinars on how to do things. There's all sorts of education going on. So we put all that into SocialFlight and started repopulating it with those loss of events with these online ones. And then I thought, well, wait a minute, I should be doing one. And the purpose should be to get everybody together in one place where we can have some community when everybody is so nervous about things going on, when there's so much uncertainty. And I thought to myself, who do we want to hear from? Who should we talk to? And it's folks like you, Barry and Brian. It's these icons of aviation that we've been reading for so many years, that we've been learning from for so long. These are the people that we want to chat with and learn their stories at a time that it's almost like when the power goes out in your house and you're by candlelight, we're all huddled up. And so that's when I launched SocialFlight Live.
Well, it's become more and more popular. It's certainly a resounding success. You know what I really enjoy about your app and your program about inspiring people to go to airports to the various events. To me, it's not so much the events that are there. It's simply being on an airport in and by itself. I can't think of a better place to be. Have you ever noticed that when you go to an airport, there's no politics, there's no prejudices, there's no crime, and there are airplanes around with propellers that make singing noises, you know? And I just love being at an airport, irrespective of what's going on.
Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that such an amazing part of what we do?
Yeah.
If I think of like this, like where would I want to be at any given moment? It's sitting or standing at sunset at my local airport, Minuteman Airport in Stowe, Massachusetts, watching the sun go down and hearing the crickets start and the aircraft just every once in a while coming in and landing or taking off. It moves me. It is just, it warms my heart. It's nothing feels better to me.
Yeah. It's a comfortable place. And I remember I've seen some of your videos and you've got your son helping you with some of those. So speaking of father-son teams, your son's getting into aviation, isn't he? But what's he doing?
Well, I've got two, right? So I've got Jake,
right,
who is at UMass Amherst right now studying mechanical engineering. He not only has his pilot's license, but he recently got his A&P also. And
awesome.
Oh my God, did that feel good for me to see him have that joy. And he got a lot of his experience working with me, not just on the Bonanza, but also on the Mustang. And then we've got Ben, who's also going into mechanical engineering. He's going to be going down to Clemson starting in the fall. So we've got a UMass and a Clemson in the family. And they have an amazing flight club there. It's the oldest flight club in the United States down there at Clemson University. And he's so excited about that too. So yeah, they're lights of my life there when it comes to this, and I love passing aviation on to them.
You know what, Jeff? It's time for a prize.
Okay, let's see what we've got here for another prize.
Brian Schiff, say Brian Schiff.
How about Alan Kane, Kane, Alan Kane? Send an email to info@socialflight.com and we will find something for you.
You know, Jeff, you've had some true icons on your program. As mentioned earlier, sort of a who's who in aviation have been privileged to be on your program. And so,
us.
Yeah. I wanted to ask, you know, what interviewing some of these people has been like. For example, have you had any surprises from people that you've interviewed?
Excellent question.
Do you have any of your guests start talking about the Texas catheter all of a sudden, and you just didn't think that was going to happen?
Let's just say that my most entertaining guests are probably the ones I would be inviting on for my 100th show celebration. But you know, you asked what you know, how I felt about some of them and talking with some of them, and I will say this has been humbling and absolutely I'm awestruck. It has been amazing to me how some of the most accomplished, amazing individuals in the world are so have such humility, and yet they carry themselves in a way that you just see what fascinating individuals there are and their life stories. It's like reading a book every single time I get to meet with them, make their acquaintance, learn about them before we have the show, and then often on the show get some big surprises like you mentioned. And I'll tell you a couple of those stories. One which was really fascinating to me, was interviewing the gentleman who is Major Cameron Hillier, who is with NORAD. And he's been on the show twice. The first time that we had him on, I thought, hey, it's Christmas is coming up. We're going to have a show on the Santa Tracker from NORAD. And I figured, we'll do this. We'll talk a little bit about the background of NORAD, etc. And before the show, he said to me, I need to explain our policy on information. So if you're going to ask me any sensitive questions about national security or what's been happening at NORAD, I won't just volunteer these things, but I will answer your questions. So if you want to know what's been happening, ask me a question. In most cases, I will answer it, but I won't volunteer stuff. And I was like speaking in code, and I'm like, ooh, okay. So I started asking him, so what's been happening with, with our borders in terms of like airspace? And at the time it was Russian incursions during the beginning of COVID. And he just opened up about all of the airspace violations that were happening, trying to test our military readiness from our response units through NORAD during the beginning of COVID, when there were so many concerns about what would happen and what condition were different militaries in. And all of a sudden I was on like a news expose show where I'm getting like facts about the world instead of just, hey, let's talk about the Santa Tracker in your life. That was shocking. That was amazing. So that's probably one of the biggest. And the second one was fairly recent. Bruce Bohannon, who is another idol of mine, who has set so many records of altitudes and speeds. And he talked about the aircraft that he first had and set most of his records in, which was an aircraft called Pushy Galore. And go research that for everybody who's on. The aircraft Pushy Galore. Pushy. I did.
Pushy, with an H.
There's an H in that. And he told me on air that one of his most memorable moments of his life was the moment that he did his last flight in that aircraft, rolled to a stop, set the brakes, turned off the engine. And he said, and I knew I never had to fly that plane again because it scared me to death every time I do it. And that he couldn't tell his wife, he couldn't tell his team, he couldn't tell his sponsors how scared he was because of the design of the aircraft and how dangerous it actually was to fly. And so that was one of those things also that I was just, wow, that was a very fascinating moment.
Sounds like an honest man.
Yes, very much so.
Have you had many people wear the Texas catheter on your show, though?
No. I'm going to guess there's one that might have one in right now.
And for those
I wish I had one on.
For those who don't know what a Texas catheter is, Google does know. And we'll even show you a picture. Brian wears them all the time, so that's why.
I'm constantly feeding him a cell.
In one end, out the other.
Oh my!
Have you had anybody on, obviously without mentioning names? Have you had anybody on that you regretted having, that you thought, after all was said and done, this was not much fun, it wasn't very interesting, or for whatever reasons, you just felt it wasn't a good show?
In retrospect, I'll look back and see if I think that about having myself on as a guest. But other than that, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Every guest I've ever had on has been so amazingly wonderful to have.
Okay. Well, now here's one that's going to make you think a little bit. This is not an unusual question. It's been asked of others. Let's assume that you could go back in time with your microphone and your webinar. Who would you like to interview who is no longer here?
Oh, that's a really good question.
I know.
You know, I think most people instantly would think, oh, I want to interview the Wright brothers. But for me, I would go back to what I consider to be like maybe like the Three Musketeers that created the general aviation aircraft that we fly today. And that would be, of course, because I'm a Beech fan, Walter, and I'll throw Olive Ann Beech into that, Clyde Cessna, and Lloyd Stearman. I mean, the planes that we still fly today that was created, they were created by this few group of people. I know I didn't name just one, but that's who I'd want to interview. That golden age.
You know, not many people realize it, but you named 3 icons, Beech, Cessna, and Stearman. Do you know that there was a time when those 3 people were the principals in one aviation organization, and that was the Travel Air Company. And they made the Travel Air, the 3 of them. Then they split and went their own ways, obviously, but they were all together at one time.
You can only keep geniuses together in one box for so long, right? And then they go spread their wings and just create so many amazing things. Yeah, boy, would I love to have one or all of them on the show and find out what it was like at a time when you could create so fast. And
the fellow I would love to interview if I were in your shoes would be Jimmy Doolittle. To me, he was my hero. I thought he was the greatest pilot of all time, and he did so much. And then there was another guy, and I'm going to be writing about him soon, a guy named William Ocker. Not many people know who he is, but he is considered to be the father of instrument flying.
That's excellent.
I don't mean to, sidetrack you like that.
No, that's really that's a really good point, because there's so many figures that they don't necessarily make the aircraft. They are legendary in their own way and have done other things. It reminds me of another one of my favorite guests I've ever had on the show, and that has truly humbled me, and that was Rear Admiral Lawrence Chambers, Larry Chambers of the USS Midway, who was the first African American to command an aircraft carrier, and was, oh my God, his stories, for the people who remember these iconic images of the fall of Saigon at the end of the Vietnam War and pushing helicopters off the deck to make room for others to be able to land and save so many lives. He made that decision, and all of his stories on the show were these amazing, valiant efforts at like going against orders and doing what he thought was the right thing, and then being rewarded for that at a time when I think you could do that. I think you could stand up for what you thought was right, and even if it was against orders, it ended up paying off for you. He is an amazing individual.
That reminds me of a fascinating event. Following the fall of Saigon, there was a South Vietnamese general who wanted to escape the area with his family, 5 people, and he crawled into a Cessna Bird Dog. Now that's overloading a little airplane. And he knew that there was an aircraft carrier some distance off the coast of Vietnam. And he didn't know how far. He thought 50, 100 miles. He just wasn't sure. And he loaded his family into this airplane, this little bird dog, the Cessna, and started heading out over the sea. And he flew and he flew and he flew. And he didn't know that he was going to find a carrier. He finally did. And the deck was covered with helicopters. And he overflew the carrier 2 or 3 times. And the commander of the carrier got the idea. They threw off some helicopters and they allowed him to land on that carrier and saved him and his family's lives.
Yes.
He was about to run out of fuel.
And Larry Chambers was that carrier admiral. And he talked about getting those. He actually, Bong Lee, threw out like pieces of paper with notes asking to land. It was, oh my God, you talk about stories. Wow, that's epic.
Yeah, one of the best.
Yes, his anyone who wants to go watch that episode back on YouTube, that's a mind-blowing one.
Well, that's cool. I wish you would do some kind of shows that could somehow relay the information that I have learned from you, the maintenance stuff that pilots want to hear, that pilots need to hear from their mechanic. And I know you and I are going to do something in Oshkosh together, talking about what, you know, how a pilot pre-flighting an aircraft from a mechanic's perspective. And there's so many things that I wish, as a result of learning from you, I take my students to talk to a mechanic all the time. Here, talk to the mechanic, let them show you what you need to look at. What are they finding? I mean, I just think the world of maintenance and the world of pilots needs to meld a little bit more together.
I could not agree more. I know we're going to try to do a talk together. That will be wonderful at Oshkosh. And you're right, we should do a show on that.
It'd be fun. It would be educational. I think very needed by a lot of pilots.
Yeah, I think it's a shame and a bit dangerous that so many students are really only taught how to check the oil and look for birds' nests maybe, and yet when something does go, I won't say wrong, but not according to plan, or you start to have an issue while you're airborne, it's so comforting and so helpful if you know a little bit more about the plane, so that you can figure things out, and then also do a pre-flight that makes sense to you, that is based on someone who understands the plane. And so I'd love to help spread that word along with you.
Well, that'll be a lot of fun, and I think that would be a very advantageous thing to do for most pilots. Just learning, like you said, I couldn't have said it better. That knowing how their airplane works can help them solve problems in their own airplanes when they arise.
Well, you know, nobody knows more about an airplane than a mechanic does. And so many people buy an airplane and they fly off after a quick inspection. I've been recommending for years that you hire a mechanic when you get a new airplane to fly and have him give you an hour of duel as to what to look for, because there's so much more than what most instructors know about.
Yeah,
that would be money well spent.
Yep.
Excellent point. Absolutely.
So it's time for a prize, Jeff.
It is. We're almost at the end of the show. We better give something else away here. Let's pick our last person here. I'm just going to kind of randomly scroll down the list here and choose. I'm scrolling through a whole bunch.
You're taking your time.
I know. I take too.
It must be a long list.
It is. It's a really long list. How about Killian Madden? Killian Madden. That name just jumps out at me. Let's just.
So how many prizes have you given away so far?
I don't know how many prizes I've given away tonight because I'm not. What's that?
You haven't kept track. 5?
5.
Well, it's up to everyone to send an email there, and of course we can look at the recording.
One more, Jeff. Come on.
Okay, let's give something else away then. How about Daryl Shook? Daryl Shook. That'll cover us there.
There you go.
Excellent. Wow. Well, it has been it's been a wonderful show. Thank you two for doing all of this for me, for all of this.
How does it feel being the guest?
It's a little nervous, but I'm a little better when I'm the one asking the questions.
It wasn't so bad, but you didn't really know what was coming at you, but you did well.
I bobbed and weaved.
Oh, you did okay. Well, like someone earlier said, you make it easy being a guest on your show. It's just a matter of conversation, and you asked a lot of great questions, and it's a lot of fun being on your show. So I hope you had fun on your own show tonight.
Oh my God, absolutely. And you know, there are so I couldn't possibly read off all the names of all the people who have been on here, but you know, Jack Pelton, who helped start it, Mark Baker, who came on the show, the folks who, the two guys, Phil Soucy and Ed Yielding, that did the SR-71. We've just done so many cool things. We've had astronauts, David Williams and John Harrington, and we have one coming up. Jay Apt is going to join us. That's going to be an amazing show, astronaut and also photographer. And the different folks that started different companies, like John Monet over at Sonics, and also Richard Van Grunsven over at Vans. I mean, you name it. We've had people from all different aircraft companies, all different things. I saw Ron Strauss over at Elvis's pilot there, Neil Hansen from Air America and flew CIA. And of course, I'm a huge fan of Colonel Nicole Malachowski, Treat Williams, who was on the show. Thanks to you, Barry. And so many others that with 100 shows, you just can't mention them all. But thank you to everyone who has made this possible, and especially Barry and Brian. You guys have been really, really wonderful and wonderful friends.
It's been a pleasure, and you make it easy.
We've enjoyed it, and we wouldn't do it unless we didn't really have great respect for what you do and who you are.
Thank you both so much, and to all of you who have taken time out of your evening and all of these different evenings to join us here on Social Flight Live. Thank you. You are supporting General Aviation, and by coming and being part of this show, you're helping spread the word and support everything that we all care about so much. And thank you for sharing our 100th episode show with us. And we will be back next Tuesday, May 10th. I have Mark Scheuer here of PS Engineering coming on the show. I'll be back in the driver's seat where I'm a little more comfortable. On the 17th, Tuesday the 17th, we have an amazing thing, which is the AvSig reunion, the old bulletin board that started so much of this communication here on aviation. And those folks who were originally there, a few of those folks, Paul Bertorelli, Mike Bush, and George Brawley. You've seen Mike Bush here so many times. He's been wonderful on the show. And then on the 24th, David Ewell, who is an incredible aviation and motorcycle artist, will be joining us as well. So again, thank you, Barry. Thank you, Brian, so much. And I wish all of you blue skies.